see, light up here. Good enough. All right, I just want to spit something out real quick. I had this crazy dream this morning. You know what? You know those dreams where you're in the dream and it's like so vivid and all this stuff is happening, and then when you finally wake up, like you wake up from the dream, so you actually remember it all, and you wake up and you're like, oh wow, I'm back in the real world. Okay, none of that stuff was real. Anyway, here's the dream I had. So it was like two years from now, maybe. That's the general feeling I got. So it's like 2 years in the future-ish. And I'm hanging out on a big deck in front of my house, looking out over the water. And if you're in front of my house in real life, it does not look out over the water because I'm in the interior of an island. But in the dream, I still had the same house, and it was more finished. And there was this big deck out in front, and then I looked out across the water. Actually, that direction. And anyway, so I'm hanging out on this big deck, and I'm sitting in this lounge chair and talking to my best friend, who I think is like my friend in real life. That was a real life guy. So he was there, and we're talking about plans, what we want to do, what we're going to work on and build, and all this stuff. And then my kids are running around on the deck and stuff. And then my wife is in the kitchen doing something, and comes out and says something, and my wife, who doesn't exist, but maybe 2 years from now I have this wife. I know exactly what she looks like too, which is kind of weird. But anyway, we're hanging out, and I'm talking to my friend, and I'm looking out in the water, and I see my boat driving by. My white boat, the zombie chopper, my little white trimaran, just driving by the water. And I look at my friend, and he looks at me, and he's like, dude, that is your boat. And I'm like, that is 100% my boat. What the? So I'm like, grab the kayaks. So we grab these 2 kayaks that I have in the future. That they're pedal kayaks. I don't actually own these kayaks right now, but maybe in the future I'll have a pair of green pedal kayaks. But so we grab these pedal kayaks, throw them in the water, and we are in hot pursuit. But we're just pedaling, and this boat, we can't keep up with it. But it doesn't go very far, because directly across the water from my house is this huge new resort, which also doesn't exist in real life, but who knows? Maybe in 2 years it'll be there. But anyway, it's just this huge building that's like right on the water, and I've never actually been in this place. But my boat goes right in there, and it's a big building on the water, and has this huge arch, like big enough for like a small sailboat to go right through, right? So my boat goes right in there, and so we follow it. We get up there and go in, but we're several minutes behind. So by the time we get in there, my boat's not in the water anymore, and the water here goes into like this little lagoon that's been cut out by the people who made this resort, and there's all these fancy decks around, and it looks like there's probably some ways to dry dock boats. So I presume the boat is out of the water and in one of these buildings somewhere at this point. And this is just this huge building. And there are people at the resort lounging around and stuff. It's an active resort. So we pull up. We park our kayaks somewhere. Pull them up on the deck, and we're like, all right, they should be safe here for a little bit. Let's go start looking around. So my friend and I are walking through the hallways of this resort. And like in dreams, things don't always make sense. So this building was huge on the outside, but on the inside, it was like 10 times the size it looked like it was going to be from the outside. So we're walking through hallways, and there's like a school and like a hospital, and it's like this place is like a whole city or something. There's like so many guests and things, and we're going through all these rooms, and there's like a machine shop we go through, and then we go through this kitchen, and the machine shop and the kitchen. There were these enormous rooms, and there's no people in them. There's just all this stuff, all this expensive stuff, in just the huge rooms, right? So we come out of the kitchen room into like through a door on the side of the kitchen into this little room that's just like a little it's just like a little quiet room with a nice window and a couple couches, the kind of room where you'd maybe go to like read or study or something, just this little quiet place. And there's a woman in there, and she's sitting at a couch with a little coffee table, reading a book. I totally remember what this woman looks like too. But she glances up as we come in the room, and she does that, like, oh, I recognize you. Like, I know something about you. And then she looks back at her book, and I walk in the room, and I stop and I look at her, and she closes her book and puts it down on the table. And she looks at me and says, they took your boat. And I'm like, can you tell me any more? She's like, okay, here's what happened. And don't tell anyone I'm saying this. And I'm like, I'm not gonna say anything, just I would like to know what's going on, where my boat is, and And she's like, okay, here's what happened. They stole your boat, and there was no details about how they got my boat in this conversation. But they took your boat and they sunk it off this beach. And she named the beach. It's a beach that's, I know what beach it is. And they sunk it and then salvaged it and repaired it and got paperwork saying they did that. And now they have papers saying that it's their boat because they've salvaged it. And I was like, wait a minute. They stole my boat, sunk it, then salvaged it, and now are claiming salvage rights, and they have papers that say it's their boat. She's like, yes. And I'm like, can you write this down? Like, give me as much detail as possible, just so I know what's going on, because like I got to do something about this. And you don't have to sign it or anything. I don't want to get you in trouble. And she's like, yes. So I find her a piece of paper, and she has a pen, and she's writing down all the details of everything she knows about, and she knows a lot about this. She knows about how they got my boat, where they took it, what they did, how they sunk it, and they repaired it, blah, 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 right? Oh, for anyone who just showed up, I'm just talking about a dream that I had this morning. This didn't actually happen. This did not actually happen. There's some stuff that I definitely would not want to happen besides this. Anyway, so she writes down all the details of this crime. And at the end, she pauses and then prints her name and signs her name. And I'm like, did you just sign that? And she's like, yeah, you know what? These guys need to be stopped. I mean, they've been doing this kind of thing a lot. They're just out of control. Like, they need to be stopped. So look, I'm probably gonna regret this, but I'm gonna be your witness. So here's my signed statement. You need me to go to court or talk to the police, whatever, I will do it. Someone has to stop these people. And I'm like, thank you so much. And she's like, don't say anything until there are police, because I don't want to get like killed by these guys are crazy, There's two of them. There's these two guys who are, running the show. There's these terrible criminals. And I'm asking her like, well, are they connected like in the mob or anything? And she's like, no, they're not connected with anyone. They're just two complete a-holes, and no one will stand up to them. If someone just stood up to them, that would be it. That would be the end of it. They're not connected with anyone. But the thing is, they keep paying people off. So no one will testify against them, because if anyone is a witness, they know that they can either go and testify or they can get $1,000 and they'll take the money. So they've just been paying people off, bribing people all over the place to get away with all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, thank you so much for helping me with this. And I'm like, do you know where they are right now? And she's like, I pretty much guarantee they're with your boat in the dry dock, which is just off that main lagoon, the door. And I'm like, okay, I remember the big door. She's like, yeah, there's like a thing that comes out, picks up the boats and brings it in there. I guarantee they're in there, because they just came back from this thing with their boat. And I'm like, thank you. And she's like, just go down this hallway. It's like the last 3 doors on the right all go into that big dry dock room. So my friend and I start walking down the hallway. And we got to walk for a while, because this building is like massively huge, like it could only be in a dream. And as we start getting closer to there are all these people milling about, like not quite at the doors that we're supposed to be going through, but just kind of, hanging out in the area. And I immediately get the vibe like, oh, these are the mooches. They're hoping, they kind of like mill around these guys, not too close, like not being seen, because they don't want to be yelled at or hit or anything, but they're like just kind of in the area. So if one of these guys pops his head out of the door and says, I need someone to do something for some money, these are the people who will be like, me, I'll do it. I'll do anything you want. So there's all these people out in the hallway, and I'm like, all right, these guys got to be in here if these people are milling about here. So I take the note that I have and I give it to my friend. I'm like, and he's like, okay, I'll keep that safe. And I'm like, just let me go in here. And so he's like, he stands out in the hallway and he's just kind of, keeping an eye on things. He doesn't know what I'm gonna do or anything, but I'm just like, I just want to go in here. So I open the door, just big double door. I open one of the doors, I step in, close the door behind me. And at this point, I'm thinking to myself, I'm closing the door behind me for a reason. So I start walking forward, and there's these two guys, these big gringos, just like alpha men, like the alpha men. Oh God, I hate these guys. Like the bossy, pushy, bully, what we call alpha men today, which are just really large children who are bullies. So they're standing there looking at my boat, talking about it, and I walk up. They see me coming across the room, and they stand there like. And as I get closer, I'm kind of assessing the situation, seeing what's around. There's lots of tools lying up against the wall, and stuff to work on boats and all this boats. And as I get close to them, I'm like, so you guys are just taking my boat, and there's nothing I can do about it, is there? And the one guy looks at the other one, and they look at each other, and they start laughing. And as they're laughing, I pick up this pipe or stick or something that's about that long, it's about that thick, and I pick it up and I crack the first guy in the head, and then I crack the second guy in the head, and now they're on the ground. And I actually did the spin move too in my dream. I don't know. I think he was ready to block the first thing, so I had to go around, spin backwards. So you think you saw this movie? Yeah, it was totally like a movie. Anyway, so these two guys are either dead on the ground or dying on the ground. Like they're done. Like they got whacked in the head hard enough. They're done. And in this room, like my boat's over here, and there's all this equipment everywhere. And just up here, there's this loft. And there's some stairs going up, and there's all this equipment and tools and stuff up on this loft. And the loft is attached to the wall at one end, and at the other end, it's just on three steel posts. So I look around the room and I find these two oars for rowing oars, right? And I figure they're about the right length. So I take them and prop them up under this loft. And kick the bottom in and get these two oars situated so that they're supporting the loft at this point, and taking the pressure off the three big steel posts that were holding it. So I removed the three steel posts, and they were kind of nailed in, but just got them out of there. So at this point, this loft with all this equipment up there is just held up precariously by these two oars. So I dragged the two bodies, just to confirm this was a dream. I did not actually murder anyone. So I dragged these two bodies kind of under the loft, and then I take a rope, there's plenty of rope in this place, and I tie a rope around the bottom of each of these oars, and then I start walking out to leave, thinking, I gotta do this quick. I don't want anyone to think I've had time to, set something up or do something. So I get to the door, I open the door, and I step out. I don't close the door yet. And there's some, yeah, they did steal the zombie chopper, right? So yeah, anyway, so I'm back out in the hallway now. And my friend is just kind of off to the side. I don't know, maybe he got the idea that he should just stay out of the way for a minute. And there's still these people, these mooches milling about in the hallway. And one of them is like, oh my God, what happened? What happened in there? You're the guy they took the boat from, right? I'm like, yeah, I got my boat back. and and I had the paperwork, and I show him. I'm like, yeah, here's the paper. For the ownership of my boat, because I just took it off one of the guys and he was dead. And the guy's like, no way, how'd you get it back? And I was like, okay, so I went in there and they were like, we're taking your boat. And I was like, I'll arm wrestle you for it. And I was like, if I can arm wrestle and beat both of you guys, I get my boat back. But if either one of you beats me, you get my boat, I'll leave, I won't cause any trouble or anything. And the two guys looked at each other and they agreed, and because they're looking at me and thinking I'm like some kind of wimp. And this mooch guy is like, no way. And now like all these people, all these mooches are like listening. Oh my God, what happened? And I was like, well, I beat them both. I beat them both in arm wrestling. And so they had to give me the thing. They had to honor their agreement, right? And like, oh man, they must be so pissed. And now they're standing back from the door still, so they don't see in the door. And I figure that's all right, that's my cue. So I look in the doorway that I haven't closed yet, and I'm like, oh my God, they are so pissed off in there. Don't go in there. And I go to close the door, but I yank on the rope, which I'd looped over the doorknob, the rope that's holding up those oars. So it pulls the oars out from holding up that loft. And I quickly close the door and step away. And then by the time I've like taken a step, there's just a huge crash in there. But I've already closed the door. So, and all these people see me out here, and I figure, okay, they're not going to think I have anything to do with that. And I'm just like, whoa, they're going crazy in there. Oh my God, I hope they're not wrecking my boat. And they're like, oh my God, they must be so mad. They're like gonna wreck your boat in there. And I'm like, oh no, what do? I can't go in there. They're gonna like kill me, right? But of course, I know that everything's going to be fine, but I don't want to say that. So just then, these cops walk into the hallway, and I'm like, whoa. And they walk in, and they're like, you're the one they took the boat from, aren't you? And the guy's like, yeah, you're not going to be able to get that back without a fight, because they've been doing this kind of thing a lot. And he sees all these people. Oh, and the guy, this one cop knew Spanish and English. So half of this was in Spanish, because my Spanish is kind of okay, and half is in English. But then the cop sees all these people like with this like look on their face. He's like, what's going on here? And he's like, this guy just got his boat back. And the cop's like, how did you get your boat back? So I tell them the story about the arm wrestling thing, and I beat them both in arm wrestling, and they gave him my boat back, and here's my paper. And he's like, they must be pissed. And I'm like, yeah, we just heard all this crashing in there, and we're worried that they're angry and gonna wreck my boat. Can you check? And the cop's like, I got you covered, kid. And he opens the door, and he's got like 5 other cops with him. They go in there and see the scene of these 2 guys dead on the ground, like with all this equipment that fell down on them. And the police chief guy looks at me and he goes, hey, looks like karma worked out for you this time. These guys got exactly what they were asking for. And he's standing there looking at the situation. He's like, I think this is case closed. And he's like, well, take your boat. You're good. Everything's good. And the other cops are like, oh, thank God someone finally did something about these guys. I mean, something happened to these guys. They finally stopped. They're not going to be, because these guys have been causing a lot of trouble. So I'm going to get my boat, and I'm trying to figure out how this thing works to get the boat, this crane thing back in the water. And the police chief comes over to me and is like, hey, you won your boat back arm wrestling, right? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, so what did these guys put up as collateral? You were betting your boat. What were they betting? And I was like, he's like, they were betting something, right? And he's like shaking his head at me and looking me dead in the eyes, like get what I'm saying. And I'm like, oh, okay, I guess they were betting me something. And he's like, did they bet you their entire resort against your boat for arm wrestling because they knew they would beat you? And he's like looking at me like like nodding his head. And I'm like, maybe? He's like, I'm going to take that as a yes. So look, You don't have to worry about anything. This is your resort now. You want it fair and square. It's going to be in your name. And he calls one of the officers over. He's like, this officer here is going to take care of all the paperwork for you. And we're all just very relieved. And the community is very relieved that this resort has new ownership. Because every night and every day we get calls and complaints about this resort, and people have been wishing for new ownership. Is that you? We're looking for new ownership that's going to run this place quietly and peacefully, and that's you, right? And he's just like, that's you, right? And I'm like, yes, sir, you got it. Okay. So then I leave. I'm like leaving in my boat, just thinking, what is going on here? And as I'm leaving, I'm not even thinking about it, because I'm just like baffled and whatever. The cop who's supposed to help me with the paperwork, he's like, all right, go home, relax and, settle your nerves for a little bit, have some lunch. Come back around 2, and I'll have all your paperwork for you then. And then, this place will be yours. And you'll run it quite nice and quietly and peacefully, right? And I'm like, yeah, man, yeah. So I leave, and my friend is there with the kayaks, and he's already got one kayak in the water, and he's towing the other kayak, and he's looking at me, he's like, did that just happen? And at that point, I'm like, wait a minute, there's no way this all happened. And then I snapped up and woke up, and I was like, wow, that was a weird dream. And then, of course, I went and looked out the door, and it's like, of course, my boat's still there. My boat, it would be like almost impossible to steal, because it's pulled in this skinny canal and then like up on the land, trying to get it out of there and then getting it through without anyone noticing. That would be difficult. Anyway, that was my crazy dream this morning. And it was one of those ones where it was like super vivid, and I still remember like all the stuff. And when you have those dreams and you wake up and it's like your brain almost thinks that pieces of that actually happened, but obviously none of it happened. All right. Yeah, that's it. And I'm gonna go discounts for a week stay. Yeah, dude, I was thinking I would just get friends to come and stay in it. Maybe rent it out a little bit. But it had these huge workshops and like a machine shop and like a huge kitchen. It had all this awesome stuff. And I was like, I don't need to make a bunch of money off this. Maybe rent out a few rooms here and there and just have people come and stay, whatever. Anyway, you stay there with your arms crossed and your lips sticking out was hilarious. Yeah, that's what the guys were like. Okay. Maters, if you're late, you could have heard the story and not known it was a dream. Oh, who's this? Stefan says, you look good. It's been a few years since I watched a video. I bought a blue shirt from you a while ago in support of your videos. Thanks, man. Got me into fiberglass work. I hope all is well. Not everything is going well, but things are generally going pretty well. Like glitch in the matrix. Yeah, so I woke up from that dream and the sun wasn't quite up, but I was like, well, I'm totally awake now. So I put on I'm wearing my heavy vest, did some exercise, and now it's raining outside. So I think I'm going to do some inside stuff. I think I'm going to go build a conveyor belt. I'm making a video of it, don't worry. Okay, I'm gonna get out of here and go do that. Discount for a week stay. Yeah, Mr. Landfill, if I ever get a resort in a weird way, you can totally stay for a huge discount for a week. Well, I am building this campground, which is gonna have little cabins and stuff. You can stay for almost nothing. I mean, I can't just do it for nothing, but yeah, I want people to be able to stay there for almost nothing. Anyway, okay, I'm getting out of here. And I want to do some work, nothing outside because it's a rainy day. But yeah, I totally have something to work on in here. I just wanted to share that crazy dream. All right, catch you later, Mr. Landfill and Tomaters and everyone. Okay.